summer long, and summer, unfortunately, is coming to an end, Uncle Bill.
It's time for September and the rise of September and the machines.
Everybody want to be woken up when September ends.
No, I do. But this is a joyous occasion because
we've got tonight.
Yeah. And tonight we're going to be talking about two extremely overlooked and, in my opinion, both underrated slasher films.
And also, and this has happened a lot throughout the weeks we've been doing these shows, there's a connection between these two movies too, and it's totally bizarre, and we'll talk about that as the night goes on. But welcome,
it's
everybody.
Weird because like we don't plan this shit. I mean, it's very odd the way these things are coming together though. Like every one of these shows that we've done have had some sort of weird connection. Maybe it's just because the genre was so, popular at that time. There's so many people interconnected in the movies, but
right.
It's just odd to me that like every time we do one of these shows, there's a hidden connection.
Well, that's something else. We didn't even think about Ryan brought it up here. Severin released both movies on Blu-ray disc.
Yep.
Oddly enough, I was looking up on my Severin order, which still has not shipped. That was on there because it was like the Axe and Killer Co-Ed's double feature was on there because, it was $8 and something. And
I feel like that one probably hasn't sold very well for Severin. Like,
probably not, no. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. We're going to be taking a look at Axe from 1974 and A Day of Judgment from 1981. Both regional slashers. That's one thing I may have in common. And they're both, like you said, I think they're severely underrated movies. And, I think there's reason for that with a couple of these. But, we'll get into it as the night goes on. But we appreciate everybody in the chat. Want to do a little bit of a roll call here, and then we'll get started, I guess, with Axe, since we're going chronologically. That one's from 74? 73, 74?
So think about this for a second, okay? Because I was thinking about it as I was watching it. That movie came out the same year. I mean, Texas Chainsaw came out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's kind of bizarre. And there's a couple of things in it that I'm kind of like, it's kind of, when we get into the movie, I'll talk about it, but like, it's hard for me to believe that somebody would have watched a regional movie like this and kind of copied some of the things out of it, but it's not unheard of. So,
yeah, for sure. Want to wish a special happy birthday to Uncle Bill's favorite, Black Peter. It's his birthday today, so happy birthday, Peter.
God. How old is Black Peter?
I don't know. We got Robert in the house. He says, I've never seen either one of these movies. I didn't even know that they existed. Well, that was partially the reason that we wanted to do this show.
Yeah.
Was to get some of these slasher movies out there. And to be fair, I didn't know that Day of Judgment existed until Severin brought that Blu-ray out.
I hadn't seen Day of Judgment until today. So today was my Day of Judgment. And then Axe is another one where I just recently, like a couple months ago, watched that one. So
I knew of Axe for its alternate title, which we'll talk about Axe here in a second. Yeah. I'm looking forward to talking about both of these movies. But Darren Burrows is in the house as well. And Darren and Dirk's debut podcast was last night. The Euro Crypt was open, brother, with the real deal himself. So check that out in the archive. But he says that Stephen Thrower's a big Axe fan.
Yeah.
And definitely it has some charm to it. Stephen Thrower is also a fan of A Day of Judgment as well. They had on this Blu-ray here, they have like a 17-minute segment where he's talking about Day of Judgment. So that's interesting.
Must be a fan of regional slashers, I feel like.
Probably. I mean, I'm a fan of all. It has to be like, for me, a really, really, really shitty movie for me to not like a slasher. Now, I mean, not to say that there's some slow parts in this. We'll get to it. But Stephen Throws a fan of the Day of Judgment too. Mayor, Witch Hunter, Goblins Inc., Ryan Atkins, Davy Collins, Twisted Trucker, Vanderhoff. Yeah, my Severin order, like I said, not even shipped yet. I don't know what they're doing, man. What's going on with Severin? I was starting to feel sorry for him over that opera thing, but now, like,
And nobody feels sorry for him at this point, though.
Seth Drake, an old school DEADPIT message board member from back in the day. Justin Marino. Black Metal Werewolf is checking us out on the Twitch TV channel, which we are on there. I wouldn't promote that any, but we're kind of on there. Scratch Bueno and Holiday Styles and the Kentucky Cunctator.
Yep. You know what? Right. If this show has taught me anything, though, it's that there's always something out there that you haven't seen. Like it's just an endless supply of slasher and like horror films that you have not, regional ones and older retro ones, and like it's just I don't think we'll ever get through all these, man.
No, I mean that's the fun thing about it. There's each year there's always more too, and a lot of times there are movies that you had never heard of before. And when it comes to the 80s and slasher movies, it is insane how many movies came out. And we talked about this too. Day of Judgment was a 1981 slasher. Somebody could do a whole book on 81 slashers.
Yep.
Like there was so many that came out that year.
But we got to start with the first one chronologically, I guess, too.
Right. Now, it's the thing too about these. Now, the questionable years, like I've seen 73, 74, and 77 for acts.
Probably, here's my guess. I don't know, but it probably started filming it in like 73 and didn't get it out to like 77 or something. That's usually how this works. Like, the funny thing though, about this movie, other than the fact that like it shares a lot of similarities with Day of Judgment, is that like a lot of these films, it was filmed in a very, very short period of time. 9 days. It was filmed in 9 days. I mean, it's kind of, you can kind of tell like when you watch it. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
I had heard that the soundtrack was made in 1 day, in 8 hours.
It's weird to me that the soundtrack is actually in this edition. I'm like, why the fuck would I want that? It's just a bunch of noises and shit. Like,
yeah, a guy beating on a drum, a tom-tom drum, and then just a bunch of nonsense on the piano.
It's literally just like random sounds, noises, stuff like that. But anyway,
I could have come up with that. I could have done that in 4 hours.
It's listed. Okay, so here's the thing. On the back of this Blu-ray, the one that I've got here, I'm sure you'll be getting this one soon. It's listed as 1975.
It's signed by somebody.
Yeah, it's actually signed by the director, Larry.
Will my copy be signed?
Frederick Friedel, Larry Friedel. Let me get. Sounds like a bluegrass player.
I wonder if my copy will be signed, Severin, since I've waited 2 months.
I have no idea. This says 75. Wikipedia says 74. You know, I don't know.
It's a mystery.
Came out.
I've seen 77. I think IMDb had 77, but I put 74 in the description.
So let's just go ahead real quick and talk about the most obvious thing about this film, since Rambo brought this up. It's called Axe, and it's really not. There's one axe in the film that gets used one time. It really, if anything, should have been called Straight Razor. That gets more use in the film than like any other implement.
Although there is axe. There's one axe that's used. One axe.
But like, it's not really like when you hear the word axe and you see like something that says "at last total terror," you're thinking like, okay, this is like a straight up slasher film, like, you know, fucking Jason style. But it's really not. It's more like Last House on the Left than it is Friday the 13th or something like that. And here's the part that got kind of like confusing to me. So the film starts out as like a gangster kind of heist film with
Mhm.
these three guys that uh trying to shake somebody down for money and end up like killing him and kind of brutalized him, beating him to death and all this stuff. And here's the weird part about these three gangsters, right? They look and are dressed a lot like the guys from Reservoir Dogs. And that's what I was saying earlier when I was like, I can't see Tarantino ripping this film off, but I mean, it's the same basic shit. I mean, they're like gangsters, heist, dressed in these suits.
It
This is
is
hilarious.
similar for sure. Yeah. I
Yeah,
actually thought the same thing.
it's a hilarious scene too, where like before they get there, they actually like knock over a grocery store and they make this woman who was clearly like some poor extra in this place get naked.
Maybe she
And
was really like a clerk at the grocery store and
she
just
yeah,
come there that day.
she did not. You can tell she did not want to do any of this. But then they go to this farmhouse after this, and they're met by this teenage girl named Lisa and her invalid father. I guess it's her father. It's her father or grandfather. It never really explains that because she doesn't really talk.
Neither one of them talk. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's completely like comatose and she's just like whatever, a mute. But, they come in there and they think that they're going to take the place over and, rob everybody and sexually kind of assault her and all this stuff. Well, it just so happens she ain't have none of that shit.
No, she don't deal with that.
Yeah. And
And
it's like at
takes
that
her
point,
revenge.
it becomes like a crossover between like Miss 45 and like I Spit on Your Grave or something like that. I mean, it's that style of movie after
I think
that.
the big
It's also
difference,
kind of crazy too.
yeah, it's very low budget too. Like even like very little dialogue in this movie really at all. But when there is dialogue, it's the quality on mine was not that great. I don't have the Blu-ray. I don't know if they've improved it quite a bit or not, but it almost sounds like you're hearing them inside of a fucking like cardboard box or something. Like the quality on the audio is not the best.
Well, one of the funniest parts about the movie, in my opinion, is the audio because like where they had to go back and do ADR work and stuff, some of the sound effects are like when they beat the guy with the pistol, it's clearly just some dude like hitting a pillow or something. It's like you can just hear like
Right.
the
The
sound
director
effects.
probably did that himself.
Yeah.
Did you notice that one of the three guys was the director of the movie? I don't know if you knew that or not. The one with the beard that looked like a rabbi or whatever. He's the director.
Oh, he's the director. Yeah.
Younger guy. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, I saw him later on. I didn't really put two and two together. I mean, I saw pictures of him later in life, but he apparently only directed 2 movies. These 2. I don't think he directed anything else. Kidnap Coed and The Axe.
And there was an issue, I think, with the rights of those movies. So he edited them together and made another movie. I think it's called Blood Brothers or Bloody Brothers or something like that. Which I think that's a special feature on that disc that you've got. But it's basically both movies combined.
Yeah, it's Bloody Brothers. It says conformed from new transfers of hybrid feature with audio. It's like the 2 things put together, I think, somehow or another. There's something about this movie though, man. Maybe I saw it at the right time or something, but like I know it's cheap as hell and I know it looks and sounds like shit, but there's something about it and I cannot place exactly what it is. It has a very weird vibe to it and a very kind of like dark, atmospheric, like something's happening in the background that you don't, really know about, especially with the girl Lisa. And like I don't know, it's not a slasher film, but it's not really like an exploitation film. It's some weird avant-garde fucking combination of those things, really.
The funny thing about this is like when I started watching it, and I didn't really at first. I'll try to get the first 15 minutes in before I start Googling information on it and all that. But I knew that I'd seen parts of this movie before somewhere. I'm like, what the hell? This I have watched before on something. And as it turns out, this movie was also released on home video as California Axe Massacre. And that was one of those tapes. I don't think I still have it, unfortunately. I'm pretty sure I sold it, but that's one of those tapes still to this day that's worth hundreds of dollars. Like just because that was like an alternate title and the artwork and everything, people go crazy over it. So I had seen part of it, at least watched some of it on VHS years and years and years ago. And it does have a pretty memorable VHS cover. I think Lisa with the axe on the front of it.
It's so misleading though, man, because like it's really not like there's I mean there's an axe scene in it, but that's like such a small part of the movie. Like there's so much other stuff that goes on in the I think the most intense scene in the entire film is the scene with the straight razor where the guy's like trying to rape her and like she takes the straight razor from behind his neck and just starts like sawing into his back of his neck. I was like, what in the hell? Like that just kind of comes out of nowhere too.
The build up to like, I mean, this is only what a 60-minute movie, really. There's 3 minutes of opening credits and 6 minutes of closing credits. So it's barely an hour.
Well, I mean, he actually the director actually admitted that was just to make it like a feature, to add length onto it to make it a feature film. There's no other reason for that. Like he said that, and like,
but I mean, they don't do anything at all though to build like the rape and the death and everything comes totally out of nowhere. It's not like they're in. Like up to this point, those two guys were just kind of being dickheads to the girl. They weren't really abusing her or anything.
It's weird because the guy that does it is the least kind of likely of the guys to do it. Like you suspect the other guy because he's the guy that was like really sadistic to the girl in the grocery store. But it's the one guy that's kind of just like, you know, I mean, he's indifferent to everything, but he doesn't seem really dangerous. And he's the one that ends up like trying to grape her. So that kind of comes out of nowhere too. But there's a lot of things in the movie, like you said, that I feel like that the guy really didn't know how to exactly make a movie yet. So there's certain sequences that are kind of way too long and other sequences that are like really abrupt. Like there's a sequence where she's outside, like gathering eggs from her chickens and one of the eggs breaks and she steps on it and like squishes it. And then that takes forever. And you're just like, what, why would this be necessary? Like just to add time onto certain scenes, it feels like.
Parts of this movie reminded me of Silent Night, Bloody Night as well. Like it has that same sort of feel, especially with the generic music and everything. And the production is pretty much spot on with, Silent Night, Bloody Night, which, I mean, I don't know what the deal was with that movie. That one's obviously still public domain and everything, but, must have been similar, like shot similar around the same time and everything, the same sort of equipment. But yeah, those two definitely, I think this movie's a bit better than that. It's way more exciting than Silent Night, Bloody Night. But yeah, it's definitely, similar production values there and the same, very similar equipment, if not the same.
It's really an interesting movie too, though, because although it's really cheap and really like, the way that it's shot is really amateurish too. He did certain things in this movie, the director, that I'm like, why did he do that? Really kind of work, like have the father or the grandfather, whatever, be there and just kind of be helpless to do anything, which is such a weird choice in this movie. Because why wouldn't it just be her? He does nothing like throughout the entire and has no consequence of anything. But like he's kind of just there observing all this stuff go down, and it's such a creepy addition because it never really explains what happened to him. But he have a stroke? You're assuming it's something like that, and he's just kind of there, helpless, and she's whatever. But there's something about the atmosphere that is very Texas Chainsaw. It's like when they go in the house and everything, you can tell something is off, like something weird is going on with both of them.
Does that Blu-ray have a commentary track with the director on it?
Yeah, it does. I didn't watch it with the commentary on though. I should have, but it does.
I'm curious what the inspiration was. I mean, Last House on the Left was out at this point, but I mean, other than the rape, but I mean, it's not a graphic rape in this movie. I was just curious what would be the inspiration for them to make this movie here, because it predates all of the modern slasher movies for sure.
Yeah.
And it's questionable. It could predate Texas Chainsaw Massacre as well. They were listed as the same year or a year before or whatever. And it's kind of, I mean, it is, the timing of it's pretty damn interesting, I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that it's like an anomaly for this movie to be released at this time period, especially for a regional film like this. Like people just didn't make films like this at that time. At least not that I've seen. And like this just kind of comes out of nowhere. And even though it is low budget, it's very effective.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely some good scenes in it too, where, I like the close up shots of the girl cleaning the blood up, right? And it's because she's almost like a mute in this movie. I mean, she does speak, but she doesn't speak a lot, right? So this is primarily, I mean, it could totally have worked as even a silent movie, honestly, because there's very little dialogue in this movie. So, but Jack's talking about a bunch of weird shit in here.
Yeah. He's on Bender or not.
I don't know, but he was asking if this was a TV movie. This was around the time where like movies were being played drive-ins quite a bit. So this is like always with something else. Even the Blu-ray is with, the Friedell's other movie. So it's one of those deals.
You noticed something about this film that I didn't notice at all, which was the connection between this one and the next one that we're going to review, which I didn't know.
Well, honestly, like Stephen Thrower is such a freaking smart guy. So he was telling shit that's not on IMDb even, because this guy isn't credited on IMDb. But, I mean, there's a couple things, and we'll talk about Day of Judgment in detail here in a little bit. Both films were made in North Carolina. And Austin McKinney is the cinematographer for both films, according to Stephen Thrower. And I was like, what? Really? Because, this was 73, 74 for Axe, and then 81 for Day of Judgment. And both of them in North Carolina. So what's the fucking odds of that?
I mean, astronomical, totally especially, by accident like that. It's crazy. But this movie, to give you an idea though, this is going to be one of those movies where you're either really going to be into it or you're going to hate it. It just is so cheap that there's certain people that can't watch movies like this. And I get that. Although it's not like shot on video cheap. It's like, it's shot on 35 millimeter amazingly, but like it is a cheap looking film and the effects are not
Maybe
great.
It was like Don't Go in the Woods. It was shot on expired film stock.
It was. You're actually right. Like I looked into this. Like the film stock was actually film stock that nobody wanted to use, and it was sent back to Kodak, and they bought it. Like no shit.
They just taped over something with it.
$25,000 is the budget too. So I mean, if that gives you any idea, that's pretty good, man. I mean, to make a film like that for $25,000.
I mean, honestly, like think of this. The movie was made in like 8 or 9 days, you said.
Yeah.
The soundtrack was done in a day. And here we are, nearly 50 years later or whatever it is. Well, it is 50 years later.
It is 50 years later, yeah.
Talking about it. So he evidently did something right. Like it or hate it. It's pretty amazing feat for somebody to shoot a film 50 years ago for little to no money. Rushed it and everything, and it hit a nerve evidently because we're still talking about it.
Yeah, like I said, there's something about it that's very disarming, and I think everybody should see it. It's kind of like, I don't know if you want to call it a precursor to Texas Chainsaw, because I don't know if it was, but it's definitely a precursor to every slasher film and every kind of weird, exploitation film except for Last House. Like, I mean, it's something to behold. I'll say that.
For sure. So yeah, that is Axe, aka California Axe Massacre. boys, which, you know, it's kind of interesting. Like I said, Texas Chainsaw Massacre wasn't even a thing. So, but we also have a poll that I would like everyone to hop on tonight. Hop on this poll and cast your vote. Which is the better slasher film, Axe from 1974 or A Day of Judgment from 1981? We only have 37 votes out there.
What
And we've
the
got
hell?
over 100 people in the chat.
Well, I'd say maybe a lot of people haven't seen either one of these films, to be fair.
Well, you can listen to our reviews and then cast your vote that way then. Because these votes are going to matter, Uncle Bill, because we have decided what we're going to do after next week. We're going to have a gigantic poll for everybody to continue to hop up and down on, where the winner of the Slashback Slasher of the Summer, right? Or we may rename that, I don't know, will get a live fan commentary. So all of the, what is it? It will be 10 winners will be in this gigantic poll that you
Big
guys
poll.
can vote. And
Huge.
you can pick a fan commentary for, you know, which one you would like to see us do. So we came up with that.
I'm curious though, even though there is only 37 people that voted, like what are the results of this poll right now?
Right now, it is Axe at 59% and Day of Judgment at 41%.
I mean, that's they should be about even. I kind of believe that they're two entirely different films, man. Like about on almost every level, really,
Right.
except for the fact they're regional. I mean, and they're both filmed around, you know, in the same state and everything. But like in terms of the content, the way the films are directed, the cinematography is completely different to me.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's the same guy. So, you know, and Day of Judgment, we're going to get into it, boys. I think it's time that this movie has its day to shine, even if it's going to lose to Axe. I don't know. It may not.
That'd be brutal if it did. But yeah.
So the big distinction with Axe is it is the only Christian slasher movie from the 80s. Maybe ever. I don't know. Maybe there could have been more recently, but this is an early 80s slasher movie with morals, Uncle Bill.
Yeah. I'm not positive I've ever seen a slasher movie like this. Like in terms of like, especially the ending. When it got to the ending, I was like, holy shit.
I marked the fuck out at the ending of it.
This is basically just like one big commercial for the church is what this is. Like, I mean, so also, I don't know about you, but this movie felt like one giant kind of like Tales from the Dark Side episode or something.
It's an anthology. It essentially is an anthology.
Yeah, it's a lot like that Tales from the Crypt movie in a way, like if you just put all those together or something. But yeah, I don't know. You gotta explain this movie because
let's set this.
To me.
We'll set this movie up. Set in the 1920s or 30s. They didn't exactly say. And opens with a small town pastor, Reverend Cage, who's in an empty church with 3 old women. That's the only old women that's left going to church. And announces that he is leaving the church and that a new pastor will start the following week. The town has forsaken the church. Right? There's a bunch of sinners in town. And from this point on, we begin to meet some of the sinners in town. It is important to say that the pastor's makeup in this is fucking terrible. And the pastor in this is also the director, C.D.H. Reynolds was his name. And so anyway, you start meeting the different characters. There's 4 or 5 different, like I guess, chapters.
Sinners.
Yeah.
4 or 5. There's 4 or 5 different sinners.
Right.
With 4 or 5 different sins is another thing I noticed too.
Right. The 7 deadly sins are all covered in this, I think, in all these episodes. So yeah, you've got the drunk old guy that his wife leaves him, and he's also like pissed off at his boss or whatever for being more successful than him. You've got this old biddy who hates these kids fucking around with their flowers. That's actually accurate. There's a lot of people like that around here. And you've got the banker guy who doesn't want to give more time to the Amish farming fella, wants to close in on his house, and he's a greedy bastard. And the department store guy that's fucking his boss's wife, and it all culminates at the end. I mean, without getting into each story, but the funny one thing that I wrote down, I just marked that, and I didn't catch this initially. So the segment with the old biddy, what's her name, Mrs. Finch, I think, who's also the granny in Death Screams, the same actress, which that was shot in North Carolina as well.
She did a much better job in Death Screams than she did in this, though, in my opinion. But it's hard to top.
I thought she did good.
I mean, she's a great bitch in this or whatever, but I thought she was better in Death Screams.
And she actually has a black maid as well, if you want to hate her even more. So they've got that. But it is the 20s. I guess that was still a thing in the 20s, wasn't it? I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Shit,
I wasn't around the 20s. But yeah, these three kids are playing in their yard, and they have a pet goat, which is fucking hilarious. It's actually pretty accurate, too, for this area in Appalachia and shit.
True.
The goat's name, though, Uncle Bill, did you remember this?
I can't remember what it was called.
Doodles!
That's right.
It was the goat named Doodles.
Oh, so yeah, you kind of know where that storyline is going, like when it starts, because like she's just super paranoid about anybody being on her property, which is actually accurate of a lot of people, especially older people around here. But also, like, this goat keeps eating her flowers, and like the only thing that she cares about is her flowers. So you know where it's going, like immediately.
Mm-hmm.
So she kills this fucking goat. And then essentially she's dragged to hell.
Right. Well, she goes out and the flowers are dead now, right? And then the hands from hell drag her down.
I was like, God damn.
And then also early on in this too, I don't know if you caught this, but they kind of quit that. Like I don't know if they explained it or maybe I missed it. Like the three old ladies that was in the congregation at the beginning, like the only three people, like they're following around and in the background, probably like the next 10 minutes of scenes in the movie, and then they're just gone. Like, I don't know.
Well, the weird part about it is that I kind of get the beginning and the end, because the beginning is all about, and then this guy disappears too. The preacher kind of just disappears as well through most of the film.
Right.
But like, it's this preacher talking about how the congregation of the church is gone, basically, and there's only these three women left, and like it's kind of hinting at the fact that everybody's abandoned the church and they've all become sinners and this and that. And so then that kind of moves out of the way and then opens up all these other side stories. You got the story you were talking about, and then probably my favorite story, because the guy in it is fucking awful but hilarious, is the story about the drunk guy who is like obsessed with this guy who stole his wife, according to him. You don't really know like what exactly happened. But there's one scene in it that cracked me up where he's drunk and at his house and he's got like a newspaper that's got his picture in it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
He goes, I wrote this down because it's fucking killer. He's like, he's got a bottle of whiskey or something. He's jamming it into the newspaper, like into the guy's like face and all this. And he goes, he looks ugly and stupid with a hole in his face. He's just talking to this newspaper. And he's
that guy reminded me a little bit of like very poor man's Jim Seedow that's in that scene.
Yeah, I mean his accent is very much like ours, to be honest.
Yeah.
And he's just like, he's obsessed with this guy and just keeps talking. He's crazily talking about him, to himself, basically. He's like, I'm gonna get this some bitch back. I have all this stuff.
And there's another one too that I forgot about, where you got this kind of probably late 20s, early 30s guy that's working at this garage and supermarket for his parents who are aging, and he's wanting to put them away in the state home so he can sell all their shit and go to California or whatever it is.
Yep.
So there's that one too. They throw a lot. This is like a 97-minute movie.
And probably the least, I don't know, the least interesting one to me though was the one with the guy that the chick is having an affair on him with like one of the other townspeople, and he's going away on a business trip, and she's having an affair, and like,
Right.
yeah, and that's just like, I don't know, there's something about
She
that.
dances a jig for way too long.
Right. But the banker one was great too. So in the banker one, like the like you said, the Amish guy takes out a loan, and the banker is coming to get his money, and he doesn't have it, so the Amish guy kills himself, and like the banker's like, well, shit, he should have known better or something.
There's also a scene in this movie too, like where you're getting introduced to the killer in the movie, which is basically like the Grim Reaper.
Yeah.
And he's in a horse and buggy. He has a scythe or a scythe or whatever you call it.
Yeah.
Like a sling blade thing. And I thought that the killer looked pretty fucking cool in this.
The killer looks like a little bit like Seven from WCW, if you remember that.
Kind of, wasn't it? Is it Madhouse with Vincent Price?
Yeah.
The way that he looked in that, I think it looks kind of like that too. And here's the thing, like, and Rambo, I saw that he had asked if there's gore in this. There's really not. There's really not even that many good death scenes in this either. There's a decapitation, I think, in one scene. But there's just, I think if the big thing that this movie has to me is charm. Like, it's just so unusual, such an oddity and is it strictly a slasher movie? Probably not. But I mean, it's got, you can tell that they were influenced by like Halloween and stuff like that at the time. Especially if I think the poster is a takeoff on Halloween as well. The night he came to collect his own is the tagline.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But it's a regional oddity, I think, is what Severin promoted it as, and that's 100% what it is. I don't think I've ever seen anything else that was like this.
No.
Filmed like the Waltons, I thought.
It looks like an episode of like any of those early kind of sitcoms like that, the Waltons, or I don't know what other one really like, but those early 70s like style, the way they're kind of oversaturated, it kind of looks like that.
Kentucky Cunt Tater, that guy has been in a bunch of those North Carolina horror movies. Yeah, so yeah, he was also in Death Screams. I think he was in like Dark Power or something like that. It was another one that Keno did, which I almost picked that one this year, but we might save that one for next year. That's like another one with a killer fucking Indian in it.
There's a hilarious scene with him in this movie though too, where the Grim Reaper guy comes up on him, and the way they edit it, like he turns around, he's like, bah! And then it goes like 3 times, it's like, blah, blah, blah. What? Like the scream, is repeated 3 times for some reason.
And I don't know if you've thought this much about it, but with, this was the guy's only directorial movie, that CDH Reynolds. He never did anything else. This movie is pretty well made. I mean, technically well done. Its visuals are really good in it and everything. This was not released theatrically. This was a direct to video movie, which I think may have hurt it quite a bit, because I don't remember ever seeing this in a video store. Do you? Evidently it was like a Thorn EMI tape. So
I've never even heard of this until you brought it up, and like,
well, unlike a lot of those other slasher movies though, this is a Thorn EMI VHS. So that's the same company that did, The Hitcher and Return of the Living Dead and all kinds of other stuff. So it should have been in the video stores when we were kids. But I think with a few updates and tweaks, this movie could have been a fucking classic. Like, it has so many good ideas and the segments were good. It was just the fact that it's not got the death scenes or the creative kills or anything that fans wanted to see. If you would have gotten that and added that into it, I think a lot more people would know what Death Screams was today. I mean, sorry,
Day of
Day of
Judgment.
Judgment.
Dead
Talk about
Scream.
too
Well, that
many
one
of
too.
them North Kakalaka Flathia movies, but Day of Judgment.
I think that I got a kick out of this movie for the same reason I got a kick out of Death Screams too, though, because like automatically a lot of the accents and the locations and stuff are just kind of like nostalgic because it looks like shit that would be around here and people that would be around here and stuff. And so I probably liked it more than anybody else would unless you're from the South. Like I feel like that's a part of this movie, like to really like get engaged in this movie, like that's a part of it too.
Well, one thing too, like another thing is set in the 20s or 30s. I don't know. I don't think they said.
There's talk about like the Depression and stuff, so I'm guessing 20s.
And man, like it's pretty accurate. He had those old, there was nothing that modern in that. This had to be a lower budget movie. I mean, I think technically, all things considered, it was a very well made movie. The acting in it seemed like something on like stage.
Yeah,
I think it was
like
mainly stage actors. Yeah.
The whole thing seems like a play, really. Like the way that it's shot, everybody's kind of in one place in most of it. Like there's not a lot of action scenes or scenes where they go out or anything like that to different. They're all just kind of like in one, like a play, like in one two shot almost. But I really enjoyed it though a lot more than I thought I would because like it just reminded me so much of like what would be like an old like I said, Tales from the Dark Side episode or something. But the thing that really sets this movie apart.
That's what when I told you about this initially, I was like, whether or not you like the movie up to this point or not, doesn't matter. When you see that ending, you will fucking pop because
you're like, okay, because it kind of makes perfect sense, like what they've been doing the entire time with the movie. So it did not end like I thought it was going to end. Like I thought it was just going to end like after all the stories were done and like, everything. But for those people that haven't seen it, now's the time to tune out of this because there's going to be some spoilers ahead.
Yeah, spoiler alert here. So it starts where the Grim Reaper guy is taking all the evil doers, the sinners, through like a purgatory where they see the pearly gates of heaven. Oh, the angels singing and all this. And they also see hell, what they're in for, right? And then what happens, Uncle Bill?
Well, like, so they all walk through this same elaborate kind of scene. And then it's the Wizard of fucking Oz ending. I was like, out of nowhere, they all wake up from a dream and like, they're like, oh, thank God. Like they go out and like check and make sure that, like none of the stuff has happened that they thought happened in the movie.
Yeah. They go check on the person that they had it out for.
And so like the woman, that the guy shot is alive. The Amish person that killed himself is alive for the banker. Like everything is reversed, right? And so, like all that happens, and they're like, oh, thank God. And then like it shows the church, and everybody's in church.
Everybody goes to church. It shows them all going into
Everybody goes back to church, and you're like, holy, like that's where I was like, holy shit! This whole time, this whole point of this movie has been just to show like like a big infomercial for church.
And before the credits start rolling, there's a line of scripture as well that talks about the 7 deadly sins.
Yeah.
This.
Yep.
But yeah, the new preacher is essentially the Grim Reaper guy, right? He's got the same hat on, the horse and buggy and everything, but he's the new preacher that is welcoming the new congregation into the church.
He comes in and he's like, hey everybody, I'm the new pastor or whatever, and yada yada yada. We're gonna it's scared
from the hymnal.
It is scared straight Jesus style. That's no joke. It's like a really covert version of all those kind of shorter commercials and stuff that they had back in the 80s and 90s where it was like trying to convince you not to do this or that, or or to go to the church, but it's like a full-length movie that basically just ends in that premise.
But what I was getting at before, though, I mean, I like it. I enjoy it and everything, but there's some people that won't because, like like we were saying earlier, there's really no. If you're in it for slashing and gory death scenes and stuff like that, it's not in this movie at all. They don't
Yeah,
have it.
there's one scene that's like that. There's only one scene that uses any kind of slasher kind of stuff to it, really.
But they had the perfect, the characters, the plot, and everything. Had they just added a little extra gore here and there, and maybe focused a little bit more on the Grim Reaper,
Yeah,
I think that it could have been a pretty successful movie, and maybe been a series. You could have easily done a series of movies on this.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest with you. Like towards the end of it, I was like, "This is fucking killer." I don't know why I thought that because it's just such a it really is a swerve. Like you're going one direction with the movie, and I had no idea it was going to go in that direction. And the way, just the setup and the execution, and the fact that the whole movie was driven on that fact of kind of slipping that in there underneath everything else that was going on, kind of slipping that message in there. And it doesn't really beat you over the head with it or anything. It's just in the beginning and the end of the movie. But I was like, that's pretty like amazing that a slasher film kind of exists like that, where they they did that. They fucking Trojan horsed a Christian message into that. Like,
one, and the truth is too that Severin brought the Blu-ray out, and it kind of quietly just nobody really talks about this movie. So the Blu-ray that came out like 2 or 3 years ago, and when I first heard about it, I was like, "Fuck, this sounds like hilarious," because they said it was like the first Christian slasher movie. So I'm like, "What in the hell does this even mean?"
Is it? I mean, has there never been another Christian slasher? Like, I imagine those two things don't go well together. Just thinking about it, but like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't give a shit about anybody's religious beliefs. I really don't give two shits about any of that. I just find it amazing that like they were able to do this, like pull this off, where they combined like a slasher film with Christian kind of messages.
Yeah,
it blows my mind to even think about it, really.
And it is, I think visually it does look like the Waltons too. Like I remember when I first watched it, I was like, holy shit, this just looks like an episode of the Waltons. But it's well made. I think that the stories were well done. The character development, even though the acting's not that great, but you get to really know all these fucking characters. They do everything right, in my opinion, except, should have been a little bit more bloody and gory and everything. And the killer, I thought the look of the killer was really cool, but you should have seen him more.
Well, I think the makeup was an issue because if you look, like they tried to do something with the makeup other than make it look like white. Like it was like they're trying to do burns or something.
Skeleton or
they're trying to do something with it, but it just didn't look right. So I think that's why they didn't show it as much, because it's just, you could tell that it was off somehow. But it was a cool idea, like to have him, going around with the scythe and everything, and
on a horse and buggy.
Yeah, like what is that? Not the angel of death, but there's a thing in Revelation and all that stuff where like on a black horse, like so it's kind of like the same on a white horse. I can't fucking remember. You know what I mean?
They shot it like on some of the stuff on a sound stage too. And this also predates Creepshow, but some of the stuff looked like they were trying to make it like a comic book, like Creepshow, with like red and blue lights and everything. And I think the production on it, considering it was just one of those little regional slasher movies, was pretty good.
Something we didn't mention too is that there's a really cool scene with a very minimal effect that works really well, where like when the banker is out there after the Amish guy has already killed himself, where they have him come up behind him, and the only thing you can see is like the hat, and he's got like glowing orange eyes. Mm-hmm. And the way that they shot that was really cool too, because he's just kind of like coming at you out of nowhere.
But I mean, I can definitely see why people wouldn't like it as well. But I mean, that's why part of the reason we wanted to do this series of shows is, watch these movies that we may have not seen, or try to let more people know about movies that we love than seen before. So I had seen this one other time before, and I remember telling Uncle Bill then, just for the ending of this movie, you got to watch it because it's so unique. So, and I mean, I would highly recommend both of these movies for those that haven't seen it. Unfortunately, it looks like Axe is kicking its ass in
I just
in the
can't.
poll.
I mean, I can't believe that, honestly, because like I don't think I would say that Axe is a better film, but I mean, it just depends on what you like. They're two completely different style films, really. And I can honestly see why somebody wouldn't like either one of these films just based on like what you like. They're very specific kind of genre films. Like one of them is, like I said, like almost like a play that's shot in a very, TV movie style, and the other one is like an exploitation style film that's shot very cheaply and in that style. So I don't know.
Well, and like we were saying before, the connection here, both films were, well, there's a few. Both films were released by Severin Films on Blu-ray.
Yep.
Both films were filmed in North Carolina, and both were lensed by Austin McKinney, cinematographer, which that just blows my mind, man. I when neither of us had any clue about this, but it's happened numerous times over these weeks of us doing this show, so it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean, and I like you would recommend both these films. Both of them are weird fucking anomalies in this
I think it's
genre.
a cool cover too. Like I like the artwork on that too. Day of Judgment. Day of Judgment, God is calling.
But if you get this one for $8, you get like 2 films. Actually 3 films.
And you get an autograph.
Apparently you get an autograph.
Evidently. Maybe
which I don't even know that, if that autograph makes it worth more or less, really.
They bought a bunch of Sharpies, just had people in the fucking warehouse start signing shit. Sign it, boys. So yeah, it looks like Axe they got 53 votes, man. And we've had over 100 people in here the entire night. What the hell's wrong with you people? Axe is ahead 60% to A Day of Judgment's 40%.
Well, there you go.
There you go. So, that brings us up to what's going to be the final chapter in the Cruel Summer Slashback. Well, summer is over with a week from tonight's September the 1st, and we are calling it a summer after that. But next week, it's going to be epic, right, Uncle Bill?
I mean, it really is. It's probably a day that nobody thought was ever going to happen when it came to this show, especially. But the darkest day of slasherdom the world has ever known is here.
These movies have always been connected in a way, so we thought, well, why not leave them connected?
Yeah, they're definitely connected for a really good reason.
They're connected at the hip. Yeah. So for the final chapter, Cruel Summer Slashback, let's talk about these movies, Uncle Bill. One of them I've been trying to get your ass to do, and you were like, well, if we're going to do it, we're going to make it the finale, and we're going to put another piece of shit with it.
This is going to be the ultimate in like grueling terror. Yeah. So the first one is one that I've tried to avoid for the majority of the time we've been doing this, really.
There's no escaping it, though.
No, there's no escaping it, because I watched it, and unfortunately, like I was like, I'm never going to fucking watch this movie again, but I'm going to have to, because we're going to be doing it. The first film is Terror at 10 Killer.
Yeah, one of those. I think it's another regional slasher movie, if I'm not mistaken, that just recently came out on Blu-ray officially for the very first time, and this one did as well. And man, I don't know. We'll have to see which one is worse, but The Last Slumber Party is the other one. So the final chapter edition of the Cruel Summer Slashback, Uncle Bill, Last Slumber Party, and Terror at 10 Killer. Oh my God.
Yeah, so I'm going to go back and watch them again because I want to cleanse the palate. It's been a while, and just see if they got any better. I can tell you, no, we can't.
No, we can't do that.
we're going to end on two of the worst fucking slasher movies that, in my opinion, have ever been made. Like these two films. There might only be one other slasher film that two other slasher films I'd put in contention for being this bad. And that would be Final Exam and Scream, 1981. So,
to be fair, though, I haven't watched the Vinegar Syndrome Terror at 10 Killer yet. So at least visually, you'll be able to see what the hell's going on.
That's true. It gets a lot better. Yeah.
So there's that. So speaking of Vinegar Syndrome, though, we do need to promote this as well. I think it's going to be a week from today on like 12:01 p.m., but I don't think we know exactly what the schedule is for this fucking sale yet. But Garrett's excited about it, boys. He thinks that Vinegar Syndrome is still in his gimmick, but it is the Vinegar Syndrome Totally Rad Labor Day sale. We're going to be doing a live buy on, I think it'll be Sunday morning, 11 to 12, something like that. But we'll have to stay tuned because they haven't really promoted exactly what they're doing.
Well, I actually looked it up the other night when we did the Friday Night Live show. I looked up their information about it. So the actual Labor Day part, right? The sale that they're doing with that starts Friday, August 30th at 12 a.m. So I'm assuming that means it starts really Thursday night.
I thought it said 12 p.m.
No,
12:01 p.m.
That is when they're fucking the show where they drop all the September stuff starts at 12 p.m.
God damn them.
Yeah. So
yeah, we'll have to figure out exactly what they're doing and when that show will be. It might be Thursday night. It might be Sunday.
You saw this too, man, and I read this off and I was like, this is the most ridiculous fucking thing ever. Like, this is even low for any of these companies where they were like, if you spend $500, you're going to get a free gift. Nobody else knows what it is.
And I said, you spend $800, you can get divorced.
That's right. And then they really did have like a $750 chair. And I swear to God, it said this. It said in their thing, it was like, this is even more secret.
It's a super secret surprise.
You motherfucking dummies, get this. It's even more secret than that one.
I'm sorry, bulls. Yeah, that is pretty bad. I saw that.
I want to meet the person that does that 750 one, man. I really do.
We got a super chat in here from On Point. The Leftovers on HBO is the best TV show of all time. Highly recommended. I've never heard of it. So I might have to check that out. On Point. Thank you for the super chat, boss. Pay $1,000 and they tinkle in your face.
Yeah.
Is The Leftovers a show about ballet dancers? Well, that explains a lot. But, yeah, guys, Cruel Summer Slashback's been a hell of a run, man. We'll end up being 20 slasher movies we reviewed this past summer.
Yep.
So, pretty fun times. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming up this fall as well. Also, definitely want to let everybody know to check out the documentary, Into the Pit, the shocking story at DEADPIT.com. We have the last remaining copies on DVD, Uncle Bill. And they have two different versions. We can sell them, right?
That's right. That's signed, unsigned, signed by somebody down the road. We can get them signed by whoever you want them to be signed by, really.
That's right. I can take one in Walmart and say, hey, this copy has physically been in Prestonsburg Walmart.
Yeah.
Just for you. I can take one to Peking. We can do that. Wherever you want me to take it, I'll take it and say, hey, this copy has been to the Bull Creek Trade Center.
This is a good question, though. We can go ahead and answer this question because I know this last show is not going to be the favorites. But, like, what is the favorite of any of the slasher films that you've seen throughout this summer Slashback series?
That's tough. Like, I like a lot of, like, really, like, no-budget, stupid shit.
Mm-hmm.
So, Twisted Nightmare was up there. That was one that I'd never seen before. I liked Eyes of a Stranger a lot. I was surprised by that one quite a bit. Cheerleader camp's always fun. What about you?
Fuck, man, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look at all of them. Like
Yeah,
there's so many of them that I've forgotten most of them by now. Somebody put together a list real quick and just put it up on the chat, and I'll choose one of them. But also, we got another super chat.
On point again with the $4.99 super chat. What are your thoughts on Buffalo 66? Vincent Gallo is a genius, man. I have a lot of respect for a man that can talk his, I guess it was his then girlfriend, into giving him some head on screen so it can be memorialized forever.
That. You think about that, though. That's crazy. I mean, she was a mainstream actress, really. And there is a film, an actual film of her just blowing that guy. And he convinced us that was art.
It's all over the internet too. You can be like, look what I got this bitch to do.
That's fucking stupid there.
Chloe Sevigny, boys. I think that kind of ended her career too, right? She hadn't done hardly anything since then.
Sadly, yeah. I mean, really it did, because she was a really good actress and you don't see her in really shit.
It's Chloe Sevigny, Birdsucker.
Is that what it is? I mean, that's the bad thing about it, though, and I'm not joking about this. Like, you can't bring her name up without somebody bringing that movie up now.
That's true. She was in Zodiac after Brown Bunny, so that's probably what killed her career.
Buddy, Zodiac, everybody loves that movie.
Do they?
Except me.
I hate The Burning as well, Matthew Hara.
We both hate The Burning. It ain't just me. I don't hate it. I just think it's severely overrated.
Like, yeah, it's very really overrated.
Okay, here we go. So Rambo did this, which is amazing. Fatal Games, The Mutilator, Graduation Day, Twisted Nightmare, Cheerleader Camp, Slaughterhouse, The Prey, The Slayer, Offerings, Nightmare Beach, Don't Go in the House Now. Okay, so my two favorites out of that would probably end up being... Jesus, that's tough. I love Night School because I'd never seen it and it was great. And I thought The Slayer was great too. I would pick those two.
I like Fatal Games just because of this.
You got shit inside your ears.
Really, if you look at it, was like, it's a pretty solid year overall. I mean, there wasn't anything on that whole list that was unwatchable, oddly enough. What do you think?
No, not really. No. I mean, I really like Fatal Games. I love the music. If I had to pick like a backup,
Nightmare Beach,
the Mutilator. Nightmare Beach was killer. Twisted Nightmare might have been the one that I had the hardest like time getting through, just because like that one was hard to, because there wasn't a good edition of that one to watch, for one thing.
Yeah, that's true. That was one
Camp was great. Slaughterhouse is great.
The Mutilator's always fun.
I love Offerings. Like,
Don't Go in the House.
Yeah. I think Offerings is great because of what it's trying to do. Like, it's not a good movie, but like the fact it's just wholeheartedly ripping off Halloween makes it hilarious to me.
I think Offerings may have been the most generic one, wouldn't you think? Like
yeah, I mean, kinda.
Chloe Sevigny, she was brilliant in Kids and American Psycho. Yeah, she was in American Psycho. I forgot about that. Thank y'all for the super chats. Blood Frenzy.
Oh, fuck. Wait a minute. Which one is Twisted Nightmare? Because I think I'm getting Blood Frenzy and Twisted Nightmare mixed up.
Twisted Nightmare is where they all come back to that, the camp, the kids' camp or whatever, when they were younger.
Okay, so Blood Frenzy is the one that I was thinking of, where it's like so hard to find like a version of it that was fucking watchable. So probably Blood Frenzy would be my least watchable of all of them.
I got to put this over to anybody in Lehighton, PA, or anywhere near there. I would totally go to this if it was anywhere within reasonable driving distance.
Yep.
Camp Blood this weekend, man. I don't know if you heard about this. I think it's from Friday 1 to Jason X. They're playing from Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday in 35 millimeter. All of them.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
Yep.
I'm sure Kane Hodder's going to be there. I don't even know, but I bet he's there.
Come on, Doodle. It's Kane Hodder.
He's like, you say his name 3 times, he's like Candyman. His ass will appear at the convention.
I saw that and I was like, God, man, that is fucking amazing. And I think the tickets were only like $10 a day or something like that. 10, $15 a day.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of would be one of my things, would be to go to Mahoning at some point.
Yeah, we're going to have to make that happen at some point in time, but it is a very, very long drive.
Yep.
Like we drove to Pittsburgh, and I think on up to Lehighton, PA from Pittsburgh is an additional 4 hours, I think. 3 or 4 hours. But maybe someday. We'll see. But, guys, we appreciate everybody tuning in. Also, after next week, we're going to have that gigantic pole for everybody to climb up onto and just let her rip on that pole. But
go wild.
Vote for what one you want to see the fan commentary for of the 10 best throughout this year, and we will do it, boys. That's what we have come to. So we'll do a fan commentary and we'll put the patrons in there too if they want to join us.
Hell yeah.
Anything else going on with you, Uncle Bill? We got a lot of reviews coming up and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, there's some stuff in the works of things that like other shows that I know I'm going to be a part of. I don't like bringing shit like that up until it like is pretty close to happening, because you don't ever know like what can happen between now and then.
We should have a pretty big one to announce like within the hopefully next week or two, that we're going to be on where people will be like, what? But
yeah,
you'll see. And then lots of reviews and stuff like that we'll be taking a look at as well. Just tons of stuff on the YouTube page, and share it with your family, friends, and neighbors.
I swear to God, though, I'm going to do a video.
On the films of Nico Mastorakis?
No. I don't even know who the hell that is. I'm going to do a video about all this stuff with the shipping and quality control issues, all these different companies, because it's too funny not to do, and just have examples of like all these different things that have happened. And yeah, it's time to slow the fuck down. Like, I feel like everybody, all these companies are kind of rushing to get stuff out at this point, because like they want to hurry up and cash in on all this before it goes away. But it's time to just chill the fuck out, slow down, get some people in there that know what they're doing. Like, just.
I'm curious though, is there anybody else in the chat that is yet to get a shipping notification from Severin? Because
there's still a bunch of people. We were talking about this the other night too.
It seems like I'm one of like the only people though left, and I'm starting to get angry. Oh, we got another super chat here from the On Point. Thank you so much, man, for all the super chats.
No, Mayor, we'll never be on Dead Meat. I guarantee that.
That'd be killer. Hey guys,
be so fucking.
Oh yeah, we're on here with DEADPIT. Yeah. Poughkeepsie tapes. Underrated for how brutal it is. I would need to rewatch the Poughkeepsie tapes, but I watched it when the DVD, like there was a bootleg of it that came out years ago or whatever, because that movie was made in what, 2010 or 2011 or something, and didn't come out for years.
I don't remember. I just remember there's the biggest hype around that movie. I've never seen it. I've never seen it.
I saw it that one time, and honestly, I didn't think it was bad. I was shocked that they set on it and didn't release it theatrically, because it was totally good enough to be a theatrical movie, and it could have gained an audience. Now, I may watch it back today and say it's a gigantic piece of shit, but I can recall like thinking it wasn't that bad when I first saw it.
So you were talking about the shipping thing. There's at least 5 or 6 people that have just said they haven't.
Okay. I feel a little bit better then.
Yeah, basically that's true, Justin. They were just like, they took everybody's money and was like, fuck you, we'll get it when we get it. We'll get those
sons of bitches. So, but yeah, guys, it's been fun. Tonight's always fun bullshitting with you guys. And we got one more week, boys. We got next week to talk about shitty slashes.
Talk about shit. It'd be the shittiest of the shitty, too.
I'm mad that Uncle Bill got his before I did. Yes.
Yeah.
That ain't fair.
He's mad at me, but I got it, so I don't give a fuck.
I'm mad at Uncle Bill. He's a bird sucking fairy.
Yeah. He's mad at me like that.
Oh gosh. But everybody have a great night. We appreciate everybody tuning in and everything. And we will catch you guys next week over at DEADPIT.com. I'd like to tell people, thumbs up the video, Uncle Bill.
Would you?
Yes. Thumbs it up with violence and fury and just love everything about it. Right, Uncle Bill?
Yeah. You hit the heart button, then you hit the ass button, then you hit the go fuck yourself button. Follow that up with the I don't give a shit button.
There's all kinds of wonderful shirts over at shop.deadpit.com. Simply the best horror shirts. On TeePublic, there are others, but they all suck. You can get some Dead Pit Radio shirts. You can get Last South on the Left. The Hills Have Eyes. Texas Chainsaw. Oh, wait, you can't say Texas Chainsaw. All kinds of shirts, folks. You're gonna love them. Shop.deadpit.com.
Special thanks goes out to our supporters on Patreon. Do you know what kind of stuff you can get on Patreon, Uncle Bill, starting at only $1 a month?
What's that?
Access to every Dead Pit show since 2005. We got almost 200 fan commentaries that we've done over the decades.
We have a literal jukebox full of songs and thousands of reviews. I don't even know how many shows are up on there now that we've done over the years.
Hundreds of thousands.
You need to figure this out now and subscribe to us on Patreon and YouTube and Instagram and help us to 1 million. The road to 1 million subscribers starts today.
So Deadpit on Patreon.com. Join today. Tiers start at only $1, but I'd recommend at least the $10 tier.
You can do 50. The stock market's crashing around us, folks, but send us money.